All right, let's just get right into it with something a little provocative. Prompt engineering? It's dead. Or, at least the way we used to think about it is. For a while there, it was all about finding that one magic sentence to get the AI to do exactly what you wanted. But things have changed. That's just not how the sophisticated AI we have today works anymore.
Yeah, the whole game has totally shifted. It's not about the prompt anymore. It's all about the context. You know, everything you give a model to work with, that whole universe of information that shapes its response, that's what really matters. So the big takeaway, and it's a huge one, is this. We've got to stop thinking like prompt engineers and start thinking like context engineers.
And look, I know what you're probably thinking. Hold on, the context windows on these new models are getting massive. And you're not wrong. Some of the top tier models are boasting a context window of 1 million tokens. I mean, to put that into perspective, we're talking about something like 700,000 words. That sounds like a ton of space to play with, right? Well, you'd be surprised. It turns out even 1 million tokens just isn't enough. Not when you're building really complex, powerful AI agents that need to solve actual real-world problems. Because, once you start adding up everything you need to cram into that window, you realize, man, it fills up way, way faster than you think.
So, what exactly is filling up that box? I mean, if we're going to get good at engineering our context, we have to know what we're working with, right? We need to understand the building blocks. And it turns out there are 6 key components, all fighting for that same limited space every single time you talk to the model.
Okay, let's break them down real quick. First, you've got the user message. Pretty simple, that's what you ask it to do. Second is the system prompt, which kind of sets the AI's personality and rules. Third, you've got tools, which are basically descriptions of actions the AI can take, like searching a database. Fourth, resources. This is all your private, business-specific data the model needs to see. And then the last two are histories. You've got the history of assistant messages, so what the AI has already said, and the history of tool calls and responses, which is a log of all the actions it's already taken.
So, think about it. The system prompt and the tool descriptions, they're pretty much static, right? They don't change much. But here's the real kicker. Those histories, the user messages, the assistant's replies, the tool calls, they grow with every single turn of the conversation. So the longer an agent is running, the more and more of that precious context window gets eaten up by the past, and it starts squeezing everything else out.
And get this, here's the other crazy part. You'd think more is better, right? Just fill it to the brim. But it's not. All the research is showing that maxing out the context window actually makes the model perform worse. The results get degraded. Apparently, the sweet spot for peak performance is when the window is only about 60 to 70% full. So what does that tell us? It means we can't just blindly stuff information in there. We have to be smart about it. We have to engineer it.
Okay, so the big question is how? How do we actually do that? Well, this is where we get into the context engineer's toolkit. Instead of just, throwing a bunch of stuff at the model and hoping for the best, we can use some really precise techniques to control what goes in and what stays out. Let's dive into the 4 core strategies that are going to help us build much, much smarter agents. And this is where it gets really fun. This is basically the playbook. 4 key strategies we really need to get right. First, we've got to engineer our system prompt. Second, we have to define our tools with laser precision. Third, we need to retrieve our data intelligently, no more just dumping it all in. And fourth, we have to plan for what we call a long horizon, for agents that need to think and act over a whole bunch of steps. All right, let's start with the system prompt. It's really like a Goldilocks situation. You can get it wrong in 2 ways. On one extreme, you can be way too vague. I mean, telling an AI, do a good job, that's totally useless. But on the other extreme, you can be way too prescriptive, writing out all this rigid if this then that logic. And when you do that, you basically handcuff the model and stop it from using that incredible reasoning power it has. So yeah, the sweet spot is right there in the middle. And here's the key takeaway. This is super important. You want to define the outcomes you want, but you let the LLM figure out the procedure. Just tell it what you want to achieve, not the step-by-step instructions on how to do it. So instead of saying, okay, read lines 1 through 5, then find the noun, then search for X, you just say, summarize this report for a busy executive and make sure to focus on the key financial takeaways. You got to trust the model to find its own way there. Okay, next up, tools. How you describe your tools to the model is, well, it's absolutely critical. Your descriptions have to be specific and detailed, but you can't be super long and wordy either. You need to nail down exactly what the tool does. And here's the most important part. You have to give it a full schema for its inputs and outputs. That gives the model a perfectly clear picture of when it should use the tool and how to do it. All right, let's talk about getting data. The classic method here is something called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's pretty straightforward. You take a user's question, you find some relevant documents in a vector database, and you just stuff them into the context. And look, RAG is a fantastic starting point, especially for simple chatbots, but when you're building complex agents, it's just not precise enough. It's kind of like using a shovel when what you really need is a scalpel. So there's a much more elegant approach. It's all about being economical with your tokens. Instead of just dumping whole documents in there, you can just describe the data sources you have. You can use super efficient identifiers, like just a user ID instead of the whole user record. And here's the really brilliant part. This is the key shift. You can prompt the model to ask you for the specific data it needs. And only then do you go get it. I mean, talk about a game changer for efficiency. And finally, what about agents that have to perform a lot of steps? For that, we need tools for what's called long horizon thinking. There are 3 big ones. First is compaction. This is where you use an LLM to just summarize big chunks of text into smaller, token-friendly versions. Second is memory. You can offload intermediate results, the model's scratchpad, to an external database to free up that context space. And third, there's composition. This is just like microservices in software development. You break down one giant complex agent into a team of smaller specialized agents that can call on each other. So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? It's that the future of building really effective AI, it's not about this endless chase for bigger and bigger context windows. It's about being way smarter and way more deliberate with the space we've already got. This really is the new discipline. Prompt engineering was just the opening act. Context engineering, that is the present and the future of building powerful autonomous AI. It's a huge shift from just crafting one clever sentence to architecting an entire information environment for the model to live and work in. So as you go forward building with AI, the question you need to ask yourself isn't, how big is my context window? Or how many tokens can I stuff in here? The real question is, how am I going to engineer my context? It's not about the size of the window. It's all about how you use it.
Thank you. Share and subscribe to Learn AI for more AI insights.